Hey guys, my name is Anthony and in today's video I'm going to be bringing you my beginner's track guide for Hanoi. So getting straight into it, we're going to have the basic run through of the lap and then we're going to have the detailed run through the lap, and then I'm going to show you a couple of laps in the race as usual, but it's going to be a little bit different. So getting into it, and now as you can see we went past the first corner, and this corner is pretty tricky and you want to sort of turn at the right time, but we'll get into a little bit more detail about that when we run through the lap a second time. So now we're here at the Drs Straight. This is the first long Drs Straight, as we're about to go into another one. You want to brake there at the 100-meter board, and you can actually cut these corners, but make sure not to cut them too much or else you will invalidate your lap or get a time penalty if you're in the race. But coming on to what's probably going to be the longest straight in Formula 1. This straight is ridiculously long. I can't imagine walking down this road instead of let alone driving down this road, sorry, because even in a Formula 1 car takes a long time. But there you want to brake just after the 100-meter board down to second in this occasion, but sometimes you might want to use first. And then coming into the last section of the track now, this is probably most people's either favorite section of the track or worst section of the track, because as you can see it's just a bunch of flowing corners and pretty much you have to get the sector 3 exactly right if you want to really get a decent time around this track. If you even mess up one corner, you've practically messed up the whole lap. So coming up to the final corner now, don't usually want to brake there, but I think we did in this occasion, and we come through for a 33.5, which is a pretty decent time around here. So let's get into the detailed version of this lap so I can actually tell you about everything. So come up to the first turn, you want to brake pretty much at the 100-meter board, and then I'm already looking at the apex at this point. As you can see, I've slowed down the clip because you want to brake in a complete straight line until you start turning the car, and as you turn the car you want to brake less. I did discuss that in my previous video, so I'll link that at the top right hand side of the screen. And coming into turn 2, you don't want to actually pass that white line or else you will be off the track. And then for turn 3, this is your braking point, pretty much the end of the pit exit lane there. That's where you want to brake, and then it's a really tough corner, but you want to shift down just before you hit the apex again to get that extra rotation that everyone's talking about. And then you want to cut the left hand corner just so you can get the best line out of that sequence of corners as possible. So for this corner now, I like to brake at the 100-meter board, but some people like to brake a little bit further where the black box is, but for me it works just braking at the 100-meter board. And as I said before, you can cut those corners, but try not to cut them too much or else you will invalidate your lap. I took the wrong line in my opinion in that one. You sort of want to swoop a little bit further out and then come back. It's one of those corners, as I discussed in the previous video, that you really want to take a double apex mindset to it. So you want to sort of go wide, stay wide, sorry, and then come back in for the late apex. But coming into this corner now, you want to brake in between the 100-meter board and the start of that curb there and brake again in a complete straight line. And as you turn the car, you want to sort of brake less. As I said, in this occasion I stayed in second gear, which actually got us a lot of time, but sometimes depending on the situation you will want to go down to third gear. And then coming into this first corner now of sector 3, you want to brake pretty much where the curb starts, and you can cut this corner quite heavily without getting an invalidation, as you'll see later on in the race section. And these sequence of corners, again, it's just something you're going to have to practice in order to get the feel of it. It's one of those ones where similar to Maggots and Beckett's but just longer, similar to the S's actually at the Circuit of America. And coming into the penultimate corner, I actually like to brake where that just before that pole on the right hand side there, and that gives you the best line through that corner. You don't necessarily have to hit the apex for that corner, but it is you know, ideal if you want to get the quickest time through the lap. So coming into the setup now, again as usual, I can't really see the setup because I'm using Sony Vegas, but just look at the setup and see what it is. This is the setup I'm using. I think it's similar to TRL Limitless's setup, to be honest with you guys. I don't think I changed too much of it, but anyways, getting into the actual race section now. Now these two laps I wanted to show you are different because of what I was trying to accomplish with these laps. So this lap here was just a regular lap that I would do around Zone 4. So as you can see, braking at a 100-meter board, and you will notice that I don't actually use the overtake button very often in this lap, if not at all. And the reason for that is because, well, if you look on the left hand side, you'll see that I'm already about 3 seconds, nearly 4 seconds ahead of Albon, and I think I was playing against 105% AI during this race, and when you're that far away from the next car, you don't really necessarily need to use the overtake button. As you can see, I actually took an extra wide line. That's the sort of line I was talking about. However, I did turn in a little bit too soon, and you really don't want to hit that inside curb, because if you hit that inside curb, you will spin. But getting back to what I was saying, when you're pretty much outside of the DRS zone for the car behind you, you don't really want to use overtake as much unless you're trying to catch the car in front of you, if there is a car in front of you, because again, overtake, it is powerful, but it does drain your DRS your ERS, sorry, very quickly. And as you can see there, I cut that corner quite a lot, as you've seen, and I didn't get any validation. So during the race, it seems you can cut that corner quite a bit without getting a warning or a time penalty. So, you know, do it at your own discretion. If you do get a penalty, you get a penalty. But coming into the penultimate corner now, as I said, you brake pretty much just before that pole on the right hand side outside of the track. And then for this final corner, you just want to lift off slightly. And I'm going to show you the next lap now, which was a lap later. And the reason why is because this was my in lap. So I wanted to show you exactly the difference between an in lap and just a regular lap. Even though I was nearly 6 seconds ahead at this point, I opted to use the overtake button during this lap, and the reason being is just simply because it was my in lap. For your in lap, as they said, you want to push as much as possible so you don't lose as much time in the pits. So that's why I was pretty much using the overtake button here. So skipping on now to the long straight, and as you can see, as I said before, 6.4 seconds, but I still decided to use the overtake button. When it comes to your in lap and your out lap, you should probably be using your ERS that you've been saving up for the previous couple of laps on those sort of laps, because those laps are very important when it comes to the race, whether you're doing a 25%, a 50%, or even a 100% race, especially if you're doing a 100% race, because you know you're going to be pitting on quite a few times during those sort of races. So you know you really want to save up your ERS if you've got room to do so, and then on laps like your in lap and your out lap, you really want to start pushing just so you don't lose as much time in the pits. But coming into the end of sector 3 now, I wanted to show you this because I found it pretty funny. This was actually the very first time that I was going in the pits, and as you can see, the pit entry is over there, but I am turning towards the penultimate corner there, so I just found that pretty funny. So if you want to see more track guides like this, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and stick around, because I'm going to be posting as much track guides as I can, as quickly as I can for each individual track. And then after I've finished that, I'll even be going into sort of wet condition driving on these tracks so that you guys can learn how to drive in wet conditions. So I'll see you guys in the next video.